हर पाकिस्तानी को कानून की हिफाजत होनी चाहिए। कोई ऐसा कानून नहीं होना चाहिए जो एक पाकिस्तानी को अमीर करे और एक पाकिस्तानी को गरीब करे। एक्यूजेशन का जो जवाब है वो है कि इस आदमी को फांसी दे दें, गोली मार दें, चाहे कौन सा क्राइम है।
As you can see, my guest today is sitting right next to me, Shahbaz Taseer. The darkest of times is something that inspires me immensely.
किसी भी इंसान, चाहे वो आपकी आंख में कितना बड़ा मोमिन है, उसको अल्लाह के लफ्ज़ के साथ ज्वाइन ना करो। ये कुरान की पहली आयत है। हम सब मुसलमान हैं इधर। हेलो, क्या हो रहा है? तुम कौन हो ये तोहमत लगाने वाले? जहाँ मैं रह रहा था उन लोगों के पास ड्रोन से बचने का मेथड भी था। एंड बेसिकली व्हेन यू हियर द साउंड, द ट्रेनिंग इज फॉल फ्लैट. Grenade, tank, anything explosive fall flat. Why did the policeman take away his gloves? क्योंकि ना उम्मीद होना अल्लाह की ताकत पे गिव अप करना।
Assalamu alaikum, I'm Ayesha Omar. You're watching SpeakEasy on 365 News. Oof. What do I say about my guest today? I have known him and his family since I was 2.5, 3. And I've seen him grow up. I've seen his entire family grow up. Never in our wildest dreams could we imagine what he was going to go through. I don't think his family could ever imagine that too, but because इनके वालिद और इनकी family में बहुत सारे ऐसे incidents हुए, you know, he lost his father right before what happened to him. So I think that the family had seen trauma and pain, and they had started, you know, like understanding what resilience really is, because his father was such a big example in front of them. As you can see, my guest today is sitting right next to me, Shahbaz Taseer, जिनको किसी इंट्रोडक्शन की ज़रूरत नहीं है क्योंकि इन्होंने पिछले 2-3 साल में इतने इंटरव्यूज़ दिए हैं, इतने इंटरव्यूज़ पूरी दुनिया में दिए हैं और अपनी जर्नी को, अपनी स्टोरी को बताया है। लेकिन इनकी मिरेक्युलस स्टोरी जितनी दफ़ा आप सुने, आपको कोई नई कोई चीज़, कोई एंगल पता चलता है, उतनी ही इंस्पायर करती है। He is an extraordinary human being. He's inspired millions. And he documented his journey, which is something very hard to do, in a book जो 2 साल पहले publish हुई। इन्होंने मुझे एक कॉपी भेजी, बहुत डार्क थी। उस बुक की भी एक बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग स्टोरी है कि वो बुक गुम गई थी जहाज़ में, मैं पढ़ रही थी और वो मुझे वापस मिली वो किताब। I lost it in one of my flights, I left it. And his story is just so beautiful, it's so miraculous, it's so elevational, it's so inspiring, लेकिन इतना सीखते हैं हम उससे। And I myself have been through a very dark time in my life in the past year. So I now, at this point in my life, relate to what kind of pain and the lessons that he learned from it, what that taught him, and how that shaped him and made him into what he is today. And the fact that he can find humor in the darkest of times is something that inspires me immensely.
Or as my mother says, very troubling, very troubling.
It's not troubling. I have done some research on this and I watched some podcasts on it, and I'll tell you why. But hello, Shabby.
Hi. And I'm so happy to be here. And thank you for such a lovely introduction.
No, Shabby, thank you for giving us time, yeah.
It's actually nice for someone, you know, to call me Shabby.
Yeah.
It's actually who I am. The Shahbaz Taseer is more, I don't know what the word is.
Shahbaz Taseer is what globally now your identity, and what a great identity.
Yeah, but it's nice to be called Shabby.
Thank you. I remember मैंने आपके बहुत सारे interviews देखे। एक interview में somebody asked you who is Shahbaz Taseer, and you were like, हाँ, son of Salman Taseer, somebody who was abducted. So right now, if you were to describe yourself without previous I would say, definitions, how do you describe yourself? Who are you, Shahbaz?
I can't actually describe it in something because I just feel like in the last 7-8 years I've evolved so much. And I've opened so many doors, or so many doors have been opened for me, I never thought that ये opportunities मेरे लिए exist कर सकती हैं. One of them was writing this book. I have nothing to do with the literature world. I have nothing to do with the promotional aspect of any product per se. But I do that in real estate, and that was my forte. But one door opened and so many doors opened, and then you start this new journey in life, and you realize I can say this and I can say that, but the most amazing part is even where I am today, I'm still evolving, I'm still learning new things. But the most amazing thing, and the one thing that I love being defined as a dad. So I love my kids. I have 3. I have a girl. I have 2 boys.
Please tell us what you were saying in the conference room before. कि घर में 8 बच्चे हैं.
Yeah.
एक आपके भाई के 3 बच्चे.
2 twins and a boy.
And a boy. Your sister has
2 girls. 2 girls, and I have a boy, 2 boys and a girl. So 8, and वो कहते हैं ना terrible 2s or terrible 3s, so that's not real. It's terrible throughout. But it's also the best part of my day. Like for example, I had an interview with you today, but I woke up I wake up very early in the morning. I drop my daughter to school, I drop my son to school, I see my nieces and nephews, I spend some time with them. My younger one is only 1, so I have breakfast with him, play with him a little bit. I come home from work, it's the same. It's like my relaxation.
So you start your day with pure energy.
Yeah, and it's a different type. Like I have single friends who have a different kind of fuel that gets them going for the day. But this is like, it's something new for me. It's more of who I've become in the last couple of years. Is like a dad, which is crazy, but I love it. And besides that, like, I'm an evolving person.
You are. So that's a great definition, dad. You like to be known as a dad at the moment. You speak a lot about your mother, and I know I'm jumping into this, but your mother, who has been your biggest pillar of strength, I would say, throughout your entire life, and then the last 15 years of your life since you were taken away from your family. So, जब मैं interviews देखती हूँ शाबी आपके, and you speak about your mother with so much respect and admiration, and you give her the credit for being able to get through those 5 years. After 6 months, you speak about how the first 6 months were your toughest, where you felt like there's no hope, and then you went into solitary confinement, which was one of your darkest times, probably the darkest time, right?
Yeah.
Darkest, but the most evolutionary time.
Because you find that light,
solace in yourself. So you speak about your mother, so I relate to it. I get it because I've seen her all my life, and I've seen all of her friends. मेरी best friend की अम्मी और इनकी अम्मी भी best friends हैं. तो कहने का मकसद है कि उसी माहौल में हम पले बड़े हैं, तो हमने इन powerful औरतों को देखा है. Tell me a little bit about how your mother sort of led that journey inside your head, and how she gave you that strength while she wasn't there, and how it used to come back to you.
So I have an amazing relationship with my mother. I pick on her a lot, and I bother her a lot, but there's a lot of...
She takes it.
No, she doesn't. But,
of course she takes it.
But she takes it, but she's, she's got these superhuman qualities.
Yeah.
And a lot of people tell me that, आप बहुत brave and you're a hero, and
which you are. And you still have trouble accepting that.
I like to I disassociate because I'll be honest with you, my father is the hero. And the only other brave person that I met in the story is my mother. And I'm not like either of them because I never had a choice. I was put through this. Whereas both of them willingly in separate times of their life chose very difficult journeys.
You were born in privilege, like you say.
Yeah, my father, when I was actually born, was in solitary confinement.
Yes,
And I was born in Dubai because my mother had to run away from Pakistan.
Yeah, flee, bilkul.
And growing up as a young kid, मुझे बस हमेशा याद है class 2, class 3 में कुछ बच्चे और बच्चे भी थे जिनके अब्बू सियासतदान थे और वो जेल में थे और other kids used to pick on them कि तुम्हारा अब्बू चोर है या तुम्हारा अब्बू ये, बट मुझे कभी कोई कुछ नहीं कहता था, बट मेरे अब्बू भी जेल में थे.
बिल्कुल.
And I used to find that embarrassing in the beginning, and I remember I was very young जब मेरी वालिदा ने मुझे समझाया था कि मेरे वालिद साहब क्यों जेल में. And कि
उसको क्या समझ आई थी कि क्यों है जेल में?
बच्चे होते हैं, you upset, you miss your father, you wonder why he's in jail. Jail is not something maybe a 7 or 8-year-old can understand as a place where good people go.
Yeah.
मैं अभी अपने बेटे को वो little छोटे बच्चों के लिए किताब है about Muhammad Ali. So I'm reading it to him, and वो मेरे से हर बार, and I've read it to him I read it to him every night.
Wow.
एक सवाल पूछता है, why did the policeman take away his gloves? Because when I'm driving with my son, I have to put him in a seatbelt, right? So I have to explain to him that you have to wear the seatbelt because the policeman will stop above.
Yeah.
So, you're explaining law,
yeah.
and to be a lawful citizen to your
wow.
2.5-year-old child. And then you're reading him a bedtime story about Muhammad Ali. And he just wants to understand, why is this the police taking his gloves away?
And what do you say to him?
So I explained to him that just like your dada, the police took your dada away as well. Because not the police has to make sure that the law is being followed. But sometimes the people that make the laws oppress you. And when you're being oppressed, and not necessarily you're being oppressed because you could have been very privileged. And usually privileged people are not oppressed by government policies. These oppressive policies are actually made by everyone together. So to stand away from that, to be able to be a voice, and to knowingly do this, is
choose that.
Yes. Yeah. So I always explain it to him like this, and so he's so young, but for me the greatest honor in all of this is that I can talk to my son and talk about someone like Muhammad Ali and talk about someone like Nelson Mandela and give him his grandfather's example.
Have you started speaking to him about yourself?
No, the older girls. So my daughter is almost 8. My sister's daughter is almost 8. My brother's twins are almost 8. I just keep saying mine because
they're all yours.
Yeah. So the 4 of them have attended my talks.
Yeah.
They were at the Lahore Literary Festival, and my daughters are very calm, and so is my sister's daughter is very calm. But my twins are.
Was that the Vajahat talk?
No, this was with Muru at the Lahore Literary when I first started.
Okay.
So part of my story is, of course, talking about solitary confinement and torture and having to survive that. And it's an emotional part of my story. It's difficult sometimes for me. It's very difficult for me to speak about it with my mother sitting in the audience because I know, what she's going through.
Of course.
So when I got done, my niece's twins ran up to me and she's like, "We will kill these bad men." So, they relate to it and they understand. And now I've read a little bit of my book to the twins. But I have to read it like explaining it to them without like the language, and so maybe in a little bit of context or more like.
Take a break later. So let's take a break and we'll come back to Speak Easy with Ayesha Omar. We are in conversation with the incredible Shahbaz Taseer. I'm Ayesha Omar. You're watching Speak Easy on 365 News. Do you think that's helped you actually find humor in those? When you speak, Shabby, what sets you apart is that you are able to actually reflect without being as emotional as anyone else would be. Maybe that's a defense mechanism. maybe it's a wall that you put up to not go there, or maybe you've actually dealt with it internally so well that you can do that.
You know, it's a mixture. Firstly, I think where the confusion comes with my experience is where somebody will try to relate to it, and they will take their own pain and they will say it's not enough compared to this what this guy's been through. But that's not true. I'm incredibly blessed because I have a high threshold for pain. No, but no,
you just said I hate pain. We were discussing this.
No, I'm actually incredibly blessed that while all of this was happening to me, I could heal, accept, and survive. It's very difficult to be able to do those three things while you're in it. Usually one happens afterwards, another happens after the other. But to be able to do all three together, because you need to keep your wits in order.
You had to.
Yeah.
There was no choice.
And also there came a time where part of the problem with being incredibly privileged in society is everything being at
your disposal.
Within, in your disposal.
Bilkul.
And someone who has grown up in that privileged or I actually always tell people that you're all very privileged, you just don't realize it. Everyone who lives in a society is very lucky because you don't realize how many people don't. Yeah. And these are countries. And so when I was removed from it and I couldn't even, get a sock in winters to keep myself warm. I had water. Anything so basic.
Anything. And like you talk about mosquitoes all around you.
I've never been around that. And I have an aversion to two things. One is the sound of planes and one is mosquitoes because no matter how... so
I know, but
so
I don't know if the audience knows कि जब आप अभी I don't know, but for many years कोई भी जहाज की आवाज आपको नजर आती
it would startle me. Yeah, and the problem is that मैं cantonment में रहता हूँ, तो airport बिल्कुल मेरे घर के पीछे है. अब मसला ये है कि I actually went to a professional because you should always, no matter how amazing you think you are, one should get a second opinion. So they said, look, you've been through a terrible experience, so you need to have some some points. And so when you wake up, where are you? I'm like, I'm in my room. So he's like, okay, so first,
you're safe.
You're safe. Do you think you're safe? That was the second question. I was like, I've woken up because I didn't feel safe, but knowing that I've woken up in my room makes me feel safe. What's troubling is, why did I wake up? He said, now you've actually ticked 5 boxes, so now we've come to the easy part. This is training, like any training. You are trained to, even in the military, how do you think people do night watch or respond to a night watchman or anything like that? So you've been living in a war zone for so long, even the people that were living with you trained you to wake up to certain sounds. This is you running from danger. Right?
This is you saving yourself.
Saving yourself. So it's a training, and it's like anything.
Protection, self-protection.
Yeah. So now you just need to let that go. So yeah, it is because it's not for example accountancy. It's not like my training in accountancy. It's not like my training in school. It's not like law. It's mentally training yourself to a specific kind of voice that might kill you if your reaction is delayed by even a millisecond. Because they're jets. The jets are traveling at the speed of sound. So they have targets, they have pinpoints. It's all done before they take off. It's not like, a jet is flying around saying, oh,
we're talking about specifically, हम बात कर रहे हैं drone attacks.
Drone attacks and
precision based.
By the way, even jets, it's jets are way, drones तो चलो जहाँ मैं रह रहा था उन लोगों के पास drone से बचने का method भी था. मगर jet से कोई नहीं बच सकता. हम वो फॉइल नहीं होता जिसमें खाना गर्म करते हैं. We used to हम फॉइल के अपने पूरे जिस्म पे लगाते थे and हम स्टैंडिंग
टारगेट कर पाते.
Heat drones are working on cameras.
Wow.
So they are picking up heat. Now how do you get rid of your body heat signal? So you stand in moving water and you put this foil. अब मैं तो 2014-15 की बात कर रहा हूँ. I don't know अब कोई नई टेक्नोलॉजी है तो अगर आप फॉइल पहना है उनको ही डायरेक्ट टारगेट कर रहे हैं. But so they knew how
of
to
course,
escape.
हम सब अपने आप को protect करने के लिए we find solutions.
But jets की कोई solution नहीं. So jets के लिए वो हम जब शवाल में थे, वो it's a valley, तो उनके फेरे वो on the top of mountains, तो walkie talkie पे करते थे. And you know, they would signal it's आ गया है, and वो eagle जो उज़्बेक में eagle को कहते हैं वो, and basically रात के वक्त all you see is a light. It's just a red light. You can't see anything else. Or sound comes after. Ooh. And so when the missile goes, basically it's already exploded, but you see the light. It's already hit the ground when you see the light in the sky.
So it's undercover.
And basically when you hear the sound, the training is fall flat. Grenade, tank, anything explosive, fall flat, because anything explosive will go like this. I'm giving you a full lecture on Shahbaz Taseer.
I love it.
But it's a training. So you have to learn it. You have to train your mind to it. And then you're here and you have to untrain yourself.
You have to unlearn everything.
You have to unlearn.
But that's
and part of, by the way, unlearning is, yes, the plane thing is irritating, but also my reaction to maybe a mosquito. So it can't be angry. It has to be to get rid of the problem, just like you would, you know, mosquito lagao, karo jo bhi hai. Nahi ho
What
sakta.
solution did you find in all those months of?
There's no solution.
No.
There's living
lie
in pain.
Still and just tell yourself.
It's torture. That's it.
Pain signals. But then there's
nothing.
So many different kinds of pain that you went through. हर चीज का पेन फर्क.
By the way, मच्छरों और इन चीजों से ज्यादा जो मुश्किल चीज थी was accepting humiliation and being degraded constantly as a way of life without accepting it as your future. It's also a real crossroads to be in.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you this question. It's amazing that you've answered it. Sorry, because मैंने इतने interviews शहबाज आपके देखे, and in that you speak about how you started reading the Quran. तो मैंने यही पूछना था कि अरबी में पढ़ना शुरू किया तो फिर समझ कैसे आई? Because you have a very clear understanding about what is being said.
Yeah.
And you started journaling.
I just had an argument with a very close friend because they said something जो बात हदीस में लिखी हुई थी.
हाँ. और उन्होंने कहा कुरान में लिखी है.
So I said,
wow.
Hello.
I know.
Don't do that. किसी भी इंसान, चाहे वो आपकी आंख में कितना बड़ा मोमिन है, उसको अल्लाह के लफ्ज़ के साथ ज्वाइन ना करो. ये कुरान की पहली आयत है. किसी इंसान का लफ्ज़ इस किताब के मुतालिक के कंपैरिजन में नहीं है.
don't trust in any man, only God.
बिल्कुल नहीं. और कि इस किताब को आपके लिए इसका मिरेकल ये है कि ये सेल्फ एक्सप्लेनेटरी. You don't need तुम्हें किसी मुफ्ती मौलवी काजी
की आपको पर्सपेक्टिव की जरूरत नहीं है.
और ये मैं आपको इसकी एक और अमेजिंग बात बताता हूँ, क्योंकि जब मैं पहले किडनैप हुआ था, the first thing that I realized what an amazing book is when I saw a bunch of 5-year-olds memorizing it. टेक्निकल थोड़ी सी बात है, बट ना कोई जूइश फेथ का बंदा अपनी तोरा को बाय हार्ट जानता है, ना कोई क्रिश्चियन फेथ का बंदा अपनी बाइबल को बाय हार्ट जानता है. कुरान की एक्चुअल फिजिकल एग्जिस्टेंस जो है ना, वो जरूरी नहीं है, क्योंकि वो एक्चुअली इंसान के दिल में और दिमाग में एम्बेड हो चुकी है. You actually understand, एक आयत लिखी हुई है in which Allah says कि तुम अपना करो काम, अपना ख्याल रखो, तुम्हें समझ में नहीं आती, इसकी हिफाजत की कसम मैंने खाई है, तुम अपनी फिक्र करो. तो जो ये
You don't need to worry about.
तो ये जो डिफेंडर्स आते हैं,
Who's going to defend your faith? Yeah.
अब इतनी सिंपल किताब है, it's like a formula, right? अगर आपको फॉर्मूला समझ आता है, तो वो पूरी का पूरी जो चीज है वो आपके सामने ऐसे लाइक अ स्टोरी वो खुद ही लिखी आती है आपके सामने. एंड द कुरान इज जस्ट लाइक दैट. इट हैज नो टू मीनिंग्स. It's very simple.
Had you read the Quran with translation before you were
I'd read it
वो बचपन में जो बुखारी साहब से पढ़ते हैं, समझ जो आना नहीं. अच्छा, एक ब्रेक लेते हैं. So let's take a break and we'll come back to Speak Easy with Ayesha Omar. We are in conversation with the incredible Shahbaz Taseer. I'm Ayesha Omar. You're watching Speak Easy on 365 News. So the first time when you started reading it, वो कितनी देर बाद था after you were first you were abducted by the Uzbeks?
Yeah, I was always with the Uzbeks till they went to war with the Afghan Taliban. That was around 2015 की end.
4 साल आप उज़्बेक्स के साथ थे.
Yeah.
So कुरान कब पढ़ना शुरू किया था?
I would say पहले हफ्ते में उन्होंने मुझे दे दी होगी और मैं उसको अंग्रेजी में पढ़ा था, लेकिन मुझे अरबी नहीं समझ में आता. I can't read उर्दू और Arabic.
तो पहले हफ्ते बाद कुरान मिल गया.
जब मैंने पहले पढ़ना शुरू किया ना, it was like a mirror, and I felt very ashamed as a human being. Because मैं उसको पढ़ रहा था as someone who was at the end of my life. When I started
आपको तो ये लग रहा है ना कि अब तो सब खत्म है.
And I was only 26 years old. So to be at the end of your life at 26 is not only unfair, but to look back, it's a wasted life. You haven't really done anything. You just had a good time. Really.
Had a beautiful childhood. मैं वाकिफ हूँ आपके childhood से.
Just 10 relationships at best you can count on your fingertips that mean so much to you. But you know, like my kidnapper used to say, and I just saw this movie just the other day, and it's crazy because he used to say the same thing, which is you're just going to be a picture on the wall. And for a few months, everyone would say, what a nice guy, we miss him. He was so nice, and then you'll be gone.
What was the purpose and what did you leave behind?
Nothing.
Yeah.
And it's such an empty thing, and then all those wonderful memories, you feel so guilty about them. And so anyways, you're reading it from the end. Now you're at the end of your life. And as a 26-year-old, that's not fair on you. You're doing yourself injustice. So while I was reading that English translation, I read something about hopelessness. And how to be hopeless is to be out of Islam. And I said, oh, there's a catch. What do you mean? I mean, I'm in the most hopeless situation. How can I not be hopeless? So I started looking. By this time now, I think महीना हो गया था. एक मुझे सही बुखारी भी मिली थी. एक मुझे सैयद कुतुब, who was the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, उसकी एक सीरत मिली थी. On the Quran, which was in English.
मिली कैसी थी? उन्होंने
ये मुझे दे दे किताबें अंग्रेजी की. हाँ पढ़ो, मतलब दिमाग काफिर, infidel. बिल्कुल. अब he was a terrorist. I mean, he maybe not himself, but they say that his theory is what Osama bin Laden and all these guys have used to weaponize Islam. अब वो काफी उसमें मम्बो जम्बो लिखा हुआ था, बट एक बहुत अमेजिंग लाइन लिखी हुई थी, which was exactly about the आयत जो मैं ढूंढ रहा था. और वो ये लिखा था कि ना उम्मीदी बेसिकली कुफर क्यों होता है? क्योंकि ना उम्मीद होना अल्लाह की ताकत पे गिव अप करना.
You don't believe in the...
तुमने अपनी इंसानी आंखों से एक बंद कमरे को बंद देखा है, मगर वो it's a room of faith, just kum fakun, just
of course,
not even a snap.
जर्रे से एक पूरा इंसान बनते हैं. तो
तुम कैसे मोमिन हो जिसने मेरी डिविनिटी पे यकीन नहीं किया, जिसने मेरी पावर और मिरेकल्स पे, और वो भी देखो अपनी हालत, किधर हो, गटर में हो, और अभी भी तुम्हारे में you given up. The fact that you don't have faith, the fact that you don't have hope speaks volumes of you, not of me and my faith. And that's when I realized that, you know, being hopeless is usually something somebody has inflicted on you. ना उम्मीद होना, ये एक ऐसी state है जिसमें usually
conditioning से आती है.
Conditioning, आपकी surrounding में, आपके लोगों, किसी ने
whine कर रहे हैं, complain कर रहे हैं, कुछ नहीं हो सकता, ये नहीं हो सकता, सब. हाँ.
उस वक्त जब आप, when your back, आपकी कमर is against the wall, एक you have to, as an इंसान आपको एक decision लेनी होती कि am I just going to keep getting pushed and buried, या
keep standing up,
or do I take a step forward? And I think regardless of the consequence of standing up for yourself or anyone, I think it's the right thing to do. So the consequence can't be so awful. And I just learned that from my dad. I knew that Abba, I was privileged and blind. Abba wasn't born in privilege.
Yeah, I know. He worked very hard.
Yeah, he worked hard to have what he had.
पूरा आपके सारे businesses, पूरा structure उन्होंने set up किया.
And having all of this, he's the governor of Punjab, he's very powerful. कुछ लोग कहते थे कि in the next government he'll have a big role. But he didn't care. उसको एक सेकंड की परवाह नहीं थी. उसने बस कहा कि ये एक औरत है, गरीब है. उसको किसी ने कहा कि वो क्रिश्चियन है. उसने कहा यार इसकी मदद करो. उसका केस पढ़ा. उसने लोगों को कहा केस पढ़, देखा है इसका. ये तो ऐसे ही है कि मैं कल कमरे में आके कहूँ कि यार इस बंदे ने चोरी की है. वो कह रहा है यार मैंने नहीं की. तो उसको हम लॉयर भी ना दें, उसको हम इतनी सहूलत भी ना दें कि यार तू गरीब आदमी है, ये ले वकील, जाके अपना केस तो लड़. या हर एक्यूजेशन का जो जवाब है वो है कि इस आदमी को फांसी दे दें, गोली मार दें, चाहे कौन सा क्राइम है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल मेरे वालिद साहब का भी एक आदमी ने कत्ल किया था.
I remember that moment when we saw it on the news.
And मैं उस वक्त गवर्नर पंजाब का बेटा था. मेरे पास भी 2-3 चॉइसेस थे. मैं उसको इस दुनिया I could have just taken वही गार्ड्स जो मेरे वालिद साहब के थे, driven down to the jail and killed him. Gunned him down and put my hand up. मुझे तो इस्लामी तौर पे इसकी इजाजत है.
बिल्कुल. But what stopped you?
हर पाकिस्तानी को कानून की हिफाजत होनी चाहिए. कोई ऐसा कानून नहीं होना चाहिए जो एक पाकिस्तानी को अमीर करे और एक पाकिस्तानी को गरीब करे
और बिल्कुल वो कर दे,
हेल्पलेस कर दे. किसी मुसलमान को, हुक्मरान स्पेशली, उसको अल्लाह क्या, ये अब हदीस है बट क़यामत के दिन you're going to be over hellfire to answer why you didn't help the innocent. I didn't give you this position for money and power and to accumulate more of it. And I'm sure सारे आपके इर्द गिर्द ये काम कर रहे थे.
But you didn't know all this at that time.
I didn't know any of this, but when I read this ayat and I understood, now umidi kufr hai, I understood what my father always stood up for himself and for other people.
The oppressed.
कोई ताकतवर आदमी होता था ना तो अब्बा पीछे होके कहता था जंग लड़. मगर जब when I buried my father, जितने लोग मेरे पास आए, they were not rich people or middle, they were from all walks of life. They were women, they were children on scholarships, they were old men, young men, and they just came and said, your father gave me my first shot, your father gave me my first chance, your father gave me my first chance. Thousands and thousands of people. He trusted in me, he believed in me, he gave me this, he sent me there, he recommended me there. आपके अब्बू ने मेरे लिए ये किया, आपके. They were not political workers, they were कोई बंदा businessman था, कोई cameraman था, कोई ये था. हर बंदे के पास, मैं आपके अब्बू के पास इस वक्त गया अपनी जिंदगी के अंदर, उसने मेरी मदद की. So this
to put your own emotions aside and like just stand for what your father believed in.
My mother never wanted the killer to be hung. She wanted him to apologize for what he did. And then after that, she couldn't have cared less. They offered us blood money. They offered her every deal under the sun. They said, we'll pay a ransom for your son. Just
4 billion.
4 billion Pakistani rupees. All kinds of garbage was said to my mother from every angle in the world. Wow. We'll give you blood money. We'll give you this. Let the guy go. She said, no. I'm not going to take blood money. I'm not taking any money.
Wow.
He has to apologize for what he did and say what I did was wrong. I was wrong. And he did say that before he was hung.
Bilkul.
And it was shown to us.
Yeah. Oof.
His bravery was shown to me, and I don't get any comfort from any of this because I have to, my father's never going to be here. But the only thing that I get comfort from is knowing that Asya Bibi is safe. That there is, आज पाकिस्तान के अंदर ये कॉन्वर्सेशन हो गया क्योंकि आज सलमान तासीर शायद पहला प्रोमिनेंट सुन्नी मुसलमान था जिसको मार दिया, राइट? तो अब हर आदमी को पता है यार ये क्या कर रहे हैं, हम सब मुसलमान हैं इधर. हेलो, क्या हो रहा है, तुम कौन हो ये तोहमत लगाने वाले? और ये आपको पता है, हाँ, कुरान में मैंने पढ़ा कि किसी का हक भी नहीं.
मैं उधर आ रही थी कि when you started reading the Quran, जब आपको समझ आनी शुरू हुई और आपने डिबेट करना शुरू किया अपने कैप्टर्स के साथ,
बड़ा मसला था.
हाँ, तो शुरू में तो हर चीज पे दुर्रे पड़ते थे. 3 I think you said something और 3 दिन आपको उन्होंने लगातार मारा.
हाँ. Actually, I have to be fair. वो थोड़ी सी इसमें confusion है. मुझे मारते थे जब मैं उनको इंसल्ट करता था. जो ये लोग थे, इन्होंने मुझे आर्ग्यूमेंट पे कभी नहीं मारा. हाँ, गार्ड्स वगैरह का वो फर्क है, बट वो हेंचमैन होते हैं, उनकी खुद कोई अकल नहीं होती.
Of course,
so but my kidnapper was a mufti. I think उसने मुझे शायद 1 या 2 चपेड़े मारी थी because again मेरा जो purpose था was to insult him.
Yeah, because you understood what their concept was, and you started understanding.
But एक बार वो जो लड़के थे जिन्होंने कराची एयरपोर्ट पे अटैक किया था, वो मेरे सामने ट्रेन हो रहे थे।
बिल्कुल 2014
का अटैक था। एंड मैं उस वक्त उनको बता रहा था कि जो तुम्हें ये बता रहा है वो झूठ है और ये कुरान में कहीं नहीं लिखा। ये कुरान, हाँ, और मैं वो हंस रहा था।
He was there watching you say this to the kids. Because they were your age.
They were Uzbek, right? अब मैं उर्दू, पश्तो, अंग्रेजी में I'm trying to get through to them. वो अरबी के अंदर आधा कुरान पढ़ के उज़्बेक के अंदर अपनी मायने दे रहा है। जो बंदा इतनी फ्लुएंटली अरबिक कुरान बोल रहा है, how can you think his translation of it would be false? Whereas someone who can't put 3 words together but understands what's written there, as I was telling about my genius friend before this. So I was that guy. I couldn't get through to an Uzbek and explain to him, hello, वो basically फिदाई हमलों की जो वो कहते थे इसको जस्टिफाई करने के लिए, वो कहते थे कि मुसलमान की तारीख में ऐसा असला इस्तेमाल नहीं हुआ, तो टैंक का जवाब फिदाई हमले से दो।
फिदाई यानी सुसाइड
बॉम्बिंग, हिट देम यू नो वेयर दे डोंट सस्पेक्ट। सो आई आस्क्ड हिम, आई सेड सबसे पहली बात तो ये कि कुरान में लिखा है अपनी जान नहीं ले सकते, चाहे कौन सा अल्लाह का इम्तिहान हो।
तो उसका क्या रीजन वो देते
वो
थे?
यही कहते थे ना कि ये उस वक्त की बात थी, अब के इनके जहाज देखो, इनकी ये देखो, मैं अपनी बैल बकरी के साथ इनसे लड़ूंगा।
हाँ, क्योंकि सुसाइड बॉम्बिंग से ज्यादा डैमेज होता है देन एनी अदर काइंड ऑफ, you also I think spoke about that.
A suicide blast.
आपके सामने हुए हैं।
Yeah. A suicide blast is one of the most devastating things that can happen in a close, like a population density. It is
space. Huh.
It will kill hundreds instantly, and the size of the kgs makes a huge difference. How big the belt is. Also, going into a market, going into a shopping mall, moon market में ये उस वक्त बहुत fresh था। तो मैंने उनसे कहा कि यार कौन सा तुम्हारे ऊपर वो इम्तिहान आया है जो पैगंबर इस्लाम पे नहीं आया? कौन सा तुम्हारे ऊपर इम्तिहान आया है जो सहाबा पे नहीं आया? कौन सा वो इम्तिहान है? कुरान में लिखा है कि जो इम्तिहान उन पे आए हैं वो किसी पे नहीं आएंगे। उन्होंने सारे इम्तिहान कर लिए जाके तुम मुसलमान हो। अच्छा, अब उस पे वो थोड़ा कंफ्यूज हो गया। अब उसके पास जवाब नहीं था क्योंकि ये कुरान की आयतें, इसके लिए कोई हदीस या मुफ्ती या काजी जस्टिफाई नहीं कर सकता इस बात को। तो मैंने उससे कहा कि सबसे पहली बात तो ये, दूसरी चीज़ जो अल्लाह ताला का हुक्म है वो है मुश्किल में सब्र करना। ये तो सब्र इस्लाम का पिलर है। सो हाउ डिड यू नॉट हैव पेशेंस इन फ्रंट ऑफ डिफिकल्टी? हिंट लाइक मी।
So what did they say to that? क्या जवाब होता था उनका?
They used to say कि ये लफ्ज़ मोड़ है फितना फैलाने के लिए।
तुम?
मैं फितना फैला रहा हूँ।
Wow.